So, Heather, quite a week of revelations, of testimony, of revelations of the inner workings of the White House or the inner dysfunction of the White House. We could really stab at anything and talk about the most important story of the week, but I guess we should start with the testimony by James Comey, the former FBI chief, who testified in front of the Intelligence Committee this week. He had basically laid out his testimony, or at least the prepared remarks, the day before, ostensibly, I guess, maybe to give some heads up to questioners. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, you mentioned off air that Donald Trump has said that James Comey is a showboat. Yeah, a little bit of that. But he's also a very meticulous cover of one's behind, it seems, where he started to, and he documents, he lays this all out in his prepared testimony, that he started documenting after his first meeting with Donald Trump. He was so disturbed that first meeting that he went into a car, an FBI car, and started typing on an FBI laptop so that it would be completely accurate. And what struck me, Digby, I mean, just, starting with the less, he spoke to Barack Obama twice in his entire tenure, once to discuss policing policies and once to say goodbye. In 2016, he has talked to Donald Trump, I think he said 9 times in the 4 months before he was fired, 3 in person, 6 on the phone. And I mean, the bottom line is that people are saying, at the very least, we just saw testimony of obstruction.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think, most of the legal experts, I mean, there are a few who are, taking some kind of, contrarian viewpoint, of course. But for the most part, I mean, people are going, this would be classic obstruction of justice. There's, when you ask somebody to drop essentially to drop ask a law enforcement officer to drop an investigation, and, you're the boss, the big boss, and you say, could you drop it? That's obstruction of justice. And I think, it's very interesting because Comey is such a fantastically interesting character. I mean, there's really nobody like him, and Trump really made a mistake in going up against this guy of all bureaucrats because he's not a normal bureaucrat. I mean, he is a dramatic fellow and has been from the very beginning of his career. He put, if a reality star wants to go up against a reality star, Comey's the guy. And right. I think Comey's winning on this one because the way that he portrayed this series of events was, extremely dramatic and portrayed it in a way that gives you a real sense of just how weird it was what Donald Trump was doing. It's just what you just said. He never had these meetings with President Obama when he was FBI director, and the reason is it's completely inappropriate for the FBI director to meet with the president one-on-one and to talk to him one-on-one, particularly if there is some kind of an investigation going on. I mean, it's just not done, and it's not, I mean, I guess there's no law against it. I mean, as Trump has said, over and over again, I guess all laws do not apply to the king in his view, or at least that's how he's interpreted various findings by his White House counsel. So, this is a very weird thing that happened, that just the conversations alone, the fact that the president wanted to do it. I mean, he had dinner alone with him in the green room, just the two of them with a little table, and there was nobody there. And Comey describes this in great detail. And, the Navy stewards come in and drop off the food, and then they leave, and he's just alone there in the room. And it's pretty clear that Trump is saying, hey, you want to keep your job, you're going to follow the party line here, fella. And, Comey's feeling uncomfortable about it, and he's refusing to express his loyalty, and that's clearly what Trump wants. I mean, it just goes on and on like this, up to the point where Trump actually has a meeting with him. And in fact, Comey went after the event and said the first meeting and said to Sessions,
Yes.
Please don't ever let me be alone in a room with this guy again.
I mean, first off, we just got to stop and say, I wonder how many people have said that to other people about Donald Trump. Right?
I can guarantee many women have said that for sure.
I would imagine there was a lot of women who were like, you can't leave me alone with him in there. But yeah, he went to Jeff Sessions and made this plea. And I wonder, it's not quite clear, but I wonder if in the back of his mind, when Jeff Sessions just sort of looked at him blankly, if Comey got the idea that, I can't trust Sessions either.
Well, it kind of sounded that way to me. I mean, He didn't say that outright, but and of course, I mean that's logical.
Right.
Sessions was deep. Not only was he, an extreme Trump loyalist, the first senator to endorse him, he's implicated in this Russian stuff too. I mean, and I think Comey probably knew that anybody involved in the transition and the campaign, and remember, Sessions wasn't just some guy that was, kind of on the campaign trail rooting for Trump. He was the head of his Foreign Relations Committee. I mean, he's the guy who was kind of, putting together Trump's foreign policy, campaign. And that had a lot to, and recall that what Trump was doing was very unusual for a Republican. He was being very, very, very soft on Russia. So I think, and it seemed weird that Sessions would do that too. You know what I mean? I mean, he didn't seem like, he always struck me as a pretty hawkish guy. But for whatever reason, this whole Russian thing was happening throughout the campaign, which is one of the things that's so, fascinating about this whole scandal, is that everybody knew that Russians had been implicated in interference with the election, that Trump had this strange soft spot for Vladimir Putin. I mean, this wasn't new, and yet the transition came in and was doing all these secret meetings. It's like, how dumb do you have to be? Or, I guess you just figure you've got power, you can arrogant. Yeah, you can do whatever you want.
I think at the end of this, if there is ever an end to it, that is going to be a really good question, whether or not this was, just an enormous amount of arrogance or enormous amount of stupidity. And perhaps it could be both.
Yeah.
Just trying to, because there's so much information. Of course, we also had the NSA chief, Mike Rogers, and the DNI chief, the director of national intelligence, Dan Coates, also testifying the day before Comey, refusing to answer the reports that were earlier reports that Donald Trump had asked them to tamp down the investigation. They refused to, and I'll tell you, it got a little bit heated with folks like Senator Angus King in that. But, all right, we have a lot more to talk about in terms of the Comey testimony. We have to talk about the NSA leak that happened this week that got someone arrested for under espionage charges. We got to talk about what's happening in the Senate in terms of healthcare. I mean, there's so much news to talk about, Digby. We got to take a quick break. We'll be right back to talk about more.